world has come for the cinematic universe we live in.
Leave your belongings and make sure you're ready to enter in this new world.
This is Cinephiles, a podcast created by two self-proclaimed cinephiles who love talking anything about films.
Catch us every Wednesdays and Saturdays at 6 p.m. on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. So join us as we enter to the new world of Cinephiles.
If you like this episode, please rate the podcast 5 stars, 6 and take it home. This podcast is a member of Bun Collective.
Welcome to your unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast. And this is the MTG Show Podcast, a wrestling podcast. It's Friday, you know what that means. Welcome to your unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast. And this is the MTG Show Podcast, a wrestling podcast. Aha! Ay, nako, Tony Khan. Sasabihin ko na to agad. So, on this episode of the podcast, we are talking about, of course, our review for Slammiversary, katatapos lang noong pay-per-view. Then, we're going to talk about Forbidden Door predictions as well on this week's episode of the podcast. So, if you want to support the podcast, ayun, standby lang kayo on today's episode of the podcast. And, ayun, let's start with Slammiversary. Before we go to Slammiversary, ayun, I want to say na thank you for supporting this podcast. Please follow the podcast on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and on TikTok at the MTG Show Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search the MTG Show Podcast on all of the social media platforms. Okay, on YouTube, and please subscribe. Please press the notification bell para may update. Hindi naman weekly yung update dyan, pero please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Okay, let's start with Slammiversary here. So, Slammiversary, katatapos lang, 20th anniversary of the show. We're going to do a summarized review since we're going to talk about a lot of things here tonight on the podcast. So, eto. Let's start with the Impact Championship. So, Josh Alexander defeated Eric Young. Tangina mo, Eric. He defeated Eric Young to retain the Impact Championship in a chaotic main event. So, yung match na to, basically, it's more on a batuhan ng moves back and forth from past and present Impact wrestlers. So, basically, yun ang match. Regardless, maganda naman yung naging laban for the world title, I must say. And di naman tayo nabigo itong dalawa. Pero ang sasabihin ko agad, dapat yung Queen of the Mountain na lang yung nag-main event ng pay-per-view. Just like the old times. Diba? Mas gusto ko talaga na ewan ko kung ako lang, pero ang hinedline na lang on Rebellion. And this year's Slammiversary was yung Queen of the Mountain. Total, puro history naman ang ginagawa ng Impact lately. So that's why dapat ang ginawa na lang nilang main event is yun, the Queen of the Mountain. Speaking of Queen of the Mountain, let's talk about the Queen of the Mountain now. So, Diana Porrazo, Tasha Steeles, then champion, Jordan Grace, Mia Yim, and Chelsea Green in a Queen of the Mountain match. If you don't know Queen of the Mountain, you have to be eligible for the match up before you can hang the title on the top. So Jordan Grace wins the match, pinning Tasha. Then, ayun, she hangs the belt on the top and she wins the title for the first time in 2 years. I love this match. I don't know why Impact didn't put this on last. Siguro mas magandang closure yun for the pay-per-view. I must say, sa tingin ko lang naman, mas magandang closure sana tong Queen of the Mountain kumpara sa main event nila. No disrespect kay EKEY tsaka kay Josh. Pero kung ito yung nilagay nila sa main event, feeling ko mas maganda yung vibe ng pay-per-view. Eh mas maganda yung mas maganda yung magiging closure ng show. Pero regardless, we love the match between EY naman. Pero it's not enough. Parang it's not enough. Parang hindi pa rin natin nakikita yung ginto ng mga nakaraang Impact Days. Yung mga nakaraang Impact Slammiversary events kasi, ang nila, dito, yung kanilang main events was a King of the Mountain. So parang dapat i-counterpart na lang nila yun. Dapat gano'n na lang yung ginawa nila. Sobrang sayang noong King of the Mountain at Queen of the Mountain. Sana yun na lang nag-headline noong Slammiversary. Okay, let's move on to the 10-man tag. So, we got a 10-man tag from Impact Originals versus Honor No More. So we got the Originals, MS Motor City Machine Guns, Frankie Kazarian, Nick Aldis, and the returning Davey Richards. So Davey Richards returned to the company for the first time since 2017. Wow, it's 2017 versus Honor No More. I must say this is more on a tribute rather than a match-up. Pero I must say this is a pretty good match-up. Hindi ko masyadong tinutukan to. Pero I must say this is a pretty good match-up na you don't need to watch naman. Para sa akin lang, you don't need to watch it kung papanoorin mo siya ng replay. Ito sa mga matches na you can skip out of the window. Diba? Then, so we got AJ Styles for the first time in few years, 8 years, 7 years, whatever. For the first time in Impact Wrestling. So he appeared to congratulate Impact Wrestling for their 20th anniversary. So, yan. Buti inalaw siya ng WWE. I don't know what's the reason for that. It's either AJ Styles being, alam naman ni Vince o ni Steph. Mamaya pag-uusapan natin yung kay Steph. Alam naman siguro ni Vince or ni Steph na Impact is really important to Styles. So that's why they allowed him to do a clip or a video footage of AJ Styles greeting Impact Wrestling for their anniversary. Diba? Regardless, that's a good touch for their pay-per-view. Then let's talk about the Impact Tag Title. So I don't know, but I'm glad that Good Brothers won the belts. Parang last year lang nag-run pa ako about Good Brothers winning the tags. But okay, I'm glad that Good Brothers won in this time. Na, ewan ko, hindi lang ako fan ng Briscoes, but yeah, I'm glad the Good Brothers won the belts back. Then, American Most Wanted made the return to Impact. So, it's a plus. Para sa akin, it's a plus. Then, they celebrated with Good Brothers and the Briscoes. Yeah. So, basically a beer bash. Yeah. So, we got the Monsters Ball. So, Monsters Ball, we got Moose versus Sami Callihan. Man. This is a fun match, man. Fun match. So, start of the matchup, obviously, they are locked in their respective rooms for 24 hours. No water, no drinks, no food. know all. Then, ayun, so lumabas na sila noong rooms. Then, Sami Callihan attack moves from his entrance pa lang. So, ayun, nag-start na yung match. They're getting some shit from the crowd and the match is so fucking good. Regardless on the outcome, Sami Callihan defeated Moose with three pile drivers on the ring. So, yun. That's a really good matchup. If you want to watch this pay-per-view, you should watch this one. As staple kasi ito ng Impact. So, good job on that one, no? Then, let's talk about the knockouts women's tag title. So, it's Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary versus The Inspiration. Tama ba? Inspiration ba yun? Gago, The Influence. Sorry naman, man. Sorry naman. Sorry naman. The Inspire... The Influence. Okay. So, this is the second match of the night. So, we got the knockouts. Women's tag titles. This is a fun match. I must say. Not the best. Pero, ang dating kasi sa akin itong match na to, it's more on, dapat ang nanalo na lang dito yung yung natawag ba dito? Taka na, nakalimutan ko na. Yung The Influence. Dapat, ayaw ko nanalo na lang dito yung Influence. Siguro much better if Influence talaga yung nanalo. Not a fan of Taya 3 belts. Imagine holding the AAA Reina de Reinas title. She's holding the MLW featherweight title as well. Then now this one. Sadyang di lang ako fan, pero I'm glad Rosemary is holding a championship again. It's a fun match, personally, in my point of view. Then, let's talk about the Ultimate X. So, we got the Ultimate X match. So there's six participants for the Ultimate X. Ace Austin, Kenny King, Mike Bailey, Trim Miguel. Originally, there's Jack Evans dapat, pero nireplace siya ni Andre Barrett, former Impact Impact Tag Champion. Ano yung nasasabi ko, buwisit? Former Impact Tag Champion and Alexei. So, that's a fun match too. And the right winner won. The right guy won in Speedball, Mike Bailey. I love this guy since he debuted on Impact. Ano lang talaga, hindi ko lang talaga masubaybayan kasi lack of time. Pero these guys are really, really big future in Impact. Malaki ang magiging to. Pag ayusin lang ng Impact yung push sa kanya, definitely kaya niyang pumalag kay Josh o kahit sinong heavyweights main events ng Impact. If you're going to ask me, then, ayun lang. So, we got the return of the Reverse Battle Royale. We don't need to talk about that. And, of course, Rich Swann versus Brian Myers. So, Rich Swann gets the title back. We don't need to talk about that in whole. So, Slammiversary in whole. Marirecommend ko ba ang Slammiversary? Yes, Slammiversary is a must-watch. Just remove the main event. I think that's better. I'm not impressed with the main event naman. Kasi, in whole, I must say, the main event of this year's Slammiversary is good on paper, pero ang sasabihin ko lang, medyo tagilid talaga sila this time. Kasi, mas feeling ko, mas gusto ko na yung Queen of the Mountain yung mag-main event on the pay-per-view. Kasi ginagawa na lang din naman nila ito before na woman yung nag-headline ng pay-per-view. So, why not this pay-per-view? Right? So, yeah. So, Ang rating ko overall on this pay-per-view, if I'm going to rate it 1 to 5, I think it's 3? 3.5? It's enough 3.5. Na in whole, it's 3.5. Ito, para sa akin lang, hindi ito WWE pay-per-view na every pay-per-view, every premium live event o kaya every time na we're getting pay-per-views, we're getting 5-minute commercials. Like, what the fuck is going on? We're getting 5 minutes of commercials, for fuck's sake. And I'm glad we didn't get that on Impact. So, it's a plus. Then, ano pa ba? Yung reunion, syempre, ng tawag dito. Kalimutan ko. Yung American Most Wanted, nag-return nga. I'm glad to see them back on Impact. Kahit one night lang yun. Then, sana lang, hindi magmadali ang Impact sa pagbubuk ng mga pay-per-view. So, in few days, magkakaroon na naman ng pay-per-view ang Impact Plus event. So, it's against all odds. The main event is now official. So, Josh Alexander versus Joe Doring for the Impact title. So, tignan natin kung ano yung mangyayari sa Impact Plus event. So, okay. Let's do the verdict for this short Slammiversary review. Okay. So, the Ultimate X gets 4 to 5, 4 out of 5. The Impact Knockouts Tag Titles, it's 2 out of 5. The Monster Ball is 4 to 5. The Impact Tag, 3 to 5. The Impact Originals and Honor No More, it's 3.5. The revised score from 4. Then Queen of the Mountain, it's 4 over 5. Then the World Title is 3.5 over 5. Okay, so top 3 for this year's Slammiversary, it's Ultimate X, Queen of the Mountain, and of course the Impact Championship. At least, ilast nyo na yung Impact title. So, yun lang. Yun lang for me in Impact. So, it's gonna be one of the shortest Impact pay-per-view reviews in the history of the podcast. It's good kasi marami pa tayong pag-uusapan on this week's episode of the podcast. But before that, we are going to take a break. When we come back, basically, we're going to talk about everything WWE on this second half of the podcast. And on our third, we're going to talk about Forbidden Door, the biggest pay-per-view of the year, blah, 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 blah. And for now, let's check our bunkmates here on Bunk Collective.
Hey everyone, this is Mo Twister, and you're listening to the Kingdom Podcast with the voice, DJ Yuki.
That was the OG, Mo Twister, promoting this podcast. If you like Korean pop culture, or know someone who does, then get into it, and visit our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages at the Kingdom Pod PH.
We're proud to tell you that this is one of the premier shows to go to for your weekly dose of K-pop. So drop everything and listen to the Kingdom Podcast. Available in all your podcast streaming platforms.
Join us!
I loved you then, I love you now, and I will continue loving you until I can no longer.
You took a part of me until I had nothing left.
The old me had to die so the new me could be reborn.
I didn't deserve that pain. I deserve love, just not from her.
Today, I choose myself.
I wanted to tell you, but you weren't there.
These are the stories that I wish you heard. Streaming weekly episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
Okay, we're back on the podcast. Okay, so let's start the second half of the pod. Before that, let's promote Lazada. Ayun, so malapit na 7/7. So 7/7 is coming. And if you want to support the pod on Lazada, you can use my link on the description below. podlink.co/6gs. Again, that's podlink.co/6gs. Again, yun. Isang malaking bagay yun here on the podcast without no extra cost. Okay? So, yung link TR ko as well, you can use that for your shopping purposes. linktr.ee/THEMTGSHOWPOD. Okay? Let's talk about Monday night or SmackDown or NXT. So, we got new developments here in the Vince McMahon scandal. So we got Stephanie McMahon sitting down as the interim CEO of the company. Yep, you heard that right. Stephanie McMahon is the CEO for now of the WWE. Sinabi ko na yon last week na magkakaroon pa ng developments dito. So, definitely, Stephanie McMahon, in my opinion, is still a ass. Pero I think that's a big upgrade comparing to Vince McMahon. At least there's big improvements of the company right now. I must say that's a big improvement in the company right now. Okay? So, Stephanie McMahon is replacing Vince McMahon as the CEO interim for now. Then, Bruce Pritchard is replacing John Laurinaitis as the talent of relations. Then, si Johnny Ace, is on leave. Nagkaroon siya ng administration leave. Then, ayan, yun lang naman. Yun lang muna ang updates natin for Vince McMahon and his hindi ko na pag-uusapan yung pagtalon-talon ni Vince sa Raw. Hindi ko na pag-uusapan yun. Wala naman din naman necessary pag-usapan. So, let's talk about the Undisputed Championship now. So, we got an Undisputed title match on SmackDown for the first time since WrestleMania. So, Roman Reigns defended the title versus Riddle in a fantastic matchup. In my opinion, it's a really, really good match. And, ang problema ko lang is bakit hindi pa nila sinalba to sa Money in the Bank? Ba't din pa nila sinave to for Money in the Bank? Siguro, they're looking for ratings din. So, Roman defending the belt, not the biggest fan of that. Pero, I must say, it's a really, really good time to see Roman in this title. Sana lang weekly na ulit magpakita si Gago. No? I wish na magpakita siya weekly on Raw o kaya SmackDown o both. Mas maigi yun. Then, after of the matchup, there's a new guy who appeared on Friday Night SmackDown and he attacked Roman Reigns with a lot of moves. Guess who? Guess who? It's Brock Lesnar. So Brock Lesnar made his return to WWE. And ayun, he challenged Roman Reigns in a last man standing match for both of the titles. Guess who? The match is now official for SummerSlam. Okay. I'm not the biggest fan of Brock and Roman, pero please drop this bullshit. I'm done with dispute. We don't need dispute, huh? We don't need dispute anymore. We're tired of this. Let's face it, man. We are tired of this. We want change. We want new era. We want new shit on this company. And we're getting Brock versus Roman over and over again. Di na ako magugulat if we're going to get this again in Saudi o kaya sa UK in September. It's sick. It's sick to my stomach. Okay. Then, let's talk about Raw now. So, Rhea Ripley is no longer number 1 contender after she announced on Twitter pagkatapos ng Raw na she has brain injury. So, hindi in-explain mabuti kung ano yung brain injury niya. Pero, we wish Rhea Ripley get well soon. And so, we got a fatal 5-way contendership match for the Raw Women's title. So, Carmella won the match. It's fitting naman for the occasion. As long as Carmella will give Bianca a really good match, and Bianca will give Carmella a really good match, it's fair enough for me. I don't see shenanigans in this shit. To be honest, wala akong nakikitang shenanigans dito sa match na to. If meron man, ano pakialam ko? Like, who the fuck? why we're getting these matchups anyway. Okay, so and then we got Elias. Elias is back on the company after 1 year of break. Then we got Ezekiel, of course. And so nagsama sila in one segment and one segment. Then, ayun, nag-appear si Elias in the ring. Si Ezekiel on the screen. And it's so fucking good. So, ito yung isa sa mga entertaining storylines in 2022. Akalain mo yon na itong story na to, from the most the most irrelevant story to the best storyline in 2022, just thanks to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is bringing the story up to the higher level. And this storytelling says it all. Diba? Diba? Ko. Then, finally, the main event, Becky Lynch versus Asuka for the Money in the Bank qualifying matchup. Asuka won. I'm glad Asuka won. But, yeah, we don't need Asuka or Becky either in the Money in the Bank. I don't know. It's just me. I don't need to see either of them in the Money in the Bank. Sobrang desperate matters at this point, I must say. Ayan. I don't need to see both of them in Money in the Bank. But, andyan na siya eh. Andyan na yun. Okay, let's go to NXT. So, we got Jordan Devlin is now JD Mac... The what? JD McDonough. JD McDonald's. JD McDonough. Okay. We don't got the explanation yet why they have to change his name. But yeah, it's kind of expected na since he's NXT bound na. So yeah, they need to repackage him. Yeah. So yun lang. Alright, let's talk about Tiffany Stratton. My opinion, she's improving, man. Hindi to napag-uusapan sa mga iba-iba mga podcast, but for me, I think I must say Tiffany Stratton is improving in the ring and talk, and I can say na she's an all-rounder na. Despite of improving pa, I must say nag-improve talaga siya. Siya yung tipo na gusto talaga matuto eh. And then, natututo naman siya on wrestling. So that's why I must say Tiffany Stratton is a really good improvement to NXT. Hindi na ako magugulat if ipupush din to ni Vince McMahon the near future after ni Nikita, ni Roxanne, at saka ni Cora. Eh, di ba? Then, ayun, let's talk about the main event of this week's NXT. Tony D'Angelo versus Carmelo Hayes. Basically, i-continue nila yung story between Legado and Tony D. Tony D was screwed by Santos, then sucker punch him, giving Hayes a brass knuckles. Then ayun, so basically got screwed again by Legado. Prior to the show, gusto ni Tony D, natutulungan daw siya ni Santos, but reverse yun nangyari. Opposite yun nangyari. In the matchup itself. Magbabalik na rin pala yung live NXT next week. So, yay! Not a fan of pre-tape NXT, to be honest. Di ako fan ng ganito mga pre-tape NXT talaga. Kasi parang it's uncomfortable to my stomach. Ang OA ko eh. No? Pero, let's talk about NXT UK. Bago tayo mag-go sa ating second commercial break, NXT UK, we got new tag team champions. So, Ashton Smith and Carter, I'm not sure about this name. So, they vacated the title on this week's episode of NXT UK. And we got new tag team champions in Josh Briggs and... Ano nga pangalan ito? Putang ina ito. Malimutan ko. Josh Briggs and Josh Briggs Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen. So, they got the titles back. Yeah. They got the titles. For the first time, NXT, yes, NXT is pre-tape naman. You know, alam niyo naman lahat na pre-tape ng NXT. So, yay. ayun. Yun lang naman. I don't have problems for NXT naman. Pero ang problema kasi with this, di kasi nagko-connect yung storylines between NXT and NXT UK. Sana napagko-connect the dots nila yung mga stories ng NXT. Sana nagko-connect the dots din nila yung NXT UK. Mas maganda sana yung magiging term or team sharing nila na ginagawa nila ngayon in the brand. Diba? Ganun sana ang dapat nilang gawin. Mas maganda sana kung ganun. So, yun. Yun lang for this week's WWE. Basically, we don't need to talk about Vince. Vince jumping on the Raw. Okay, so we're going to take another commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the predictions. And of course, our recap for Dynamite on this week's episode of the podcast. But for now, let's check our bunkmates here on Bunk Collective.
Nag-uulat mula sa shore na kasing pretty ko.
Bringing you the latest and greatest.
And diving deep into the cool waters
of BLs and GLs.
And every kind of love there is.
We are the Shippers. Sail with us as we watch our favorite queer love stories.
And update you about the latest every week.
Kaya tara, sakay na as we sail the open seas.
With new episodes Mondays and Wednesdays on all major podcast streaming platforms.
Sakay na you. Let's go.
So Mars, what na? Do you want to talk about everything and anything under the sun? Listen to our fellow Pinoy stories or just catch up? Big kwento?
Why not? Here at Mars What Na podcast, everything is free-flowing, like the alcohol that we may or may not be drinking.
You've got your Kumars Michelle and
Bethany here finding what makes us distinctly Pinoy, our similarities, our differences.
Covering the topics about Pinoy experience from the motherland and abroad.
Catch us on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Kita Kits!
Okay, we're back on the podcast. Let's continue the show. Let's talk about Shopee. So, Shopee, malapit na rin ang 7/7 sale on Shopee, the continuation of their mid-year sale. If you want to support the podcast on Shopee, you can use my link on the description below o kaya podlink.co/phx. Again, that's podlink.co/6gs. Gonna be a long time and a long term for us here on the podcast without no extra cost. Okay. So, let's talk about Dynamite. So, konti lang naman to. So, we got Christian Cage turning on Jungle Boy. He explained his actions on today's episode of Dynamite. So, this week's episode rather. And he said that he's sick and tired of Jungle Boy and he was waiting for a time to turn on him. Then, remind din niya tayo on nangyari doon sa Double or Nothing last year. So, that's the Battle Royale. So, maraming long-term storytelling dito. So, yeah. And he also mentioned Luke Perry on this week's episode of Dynamite. Ako, tanungin ko nga kayo. Okay lang ba sa inyo na minimension yung mahal sa buhay ng isang wrestler na patay na o namatay na? Regardless on the story or kung naman yung pinag-uusapan nila on the storyline. Ewan ko, kung okay lang ba sa inyo yung ganun? Ako kasi okay lang sa akin. Depends on the story. Like, tandaan nyo ba yung nangyari kay Eddie Guerrero and Randy Orton? Ganon. Kung okay lang sa inyo, let me know in the pod platforms at THEMTGSHOWPOD. No? Ayun na lang. Doon na lang muna natin discuss. Wala na kasing oras. May clear lang naman kasi itong pod time natin. Okay. So, then, the main event of this week's Dynamite is a tag match It's Chris Jericho and Lance Archer versus Moxley and Tanahashi. Oh boy, this is a mess. Don't need about this. It's too mess for me. Yun lang. Yun lang. Basically, it's a mess. Especially Jericho. Jericho is doing mess on this pay-per-view anyways. Okay, so let's talk about the predictions now for this year's Forbidden Door, the first Forbidden Door pay-per-view collaboration of AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So first match on the buy-in, Max Caster and Gun Club versus New Japan Dojos. Okay, I must say Caster will win on this. Very obvious kasi Dojo pa lang naman yung ilalaban nila sa apat na. It's pretty obvious. Okay. So, let's talk about Zack Sabre Jr. versus an opponent of Bryan Danielson's choosing. Para sa akin lang, mas safe siguro if ang fourth guy o yung kalaban niya dito, it's either Gresham o kaya si former Cesaro. I would love to see Cesaro, but mas gusto ko i-consider nila si Gresham talaga if he's medically cleared na compete. I would love to see Gresham competing on that pay-per-view, man. Imagine Gresham and CSJ competing each other. It's gonna be a big banger for sure. It's gonna be good regardless on the outcome. It's gonna be good for me. Then we got Bullet Club, Young Bucks, Hikuleo, and El Fantasmo versus Dudes with Attitude, Sting and Darby versus Sting and Darby, then Shingo Takagi and Hiromu Takahashi. Ah boy, it's gonna be a big banger match for sure. But I don't know, but I don't need this matchups, man. I don't need this kind of matchups. It's too unnecessary, dude. yeah. It's too unnecessary at this point. To see Young Bucks in action, they put a lot of matchups, man. Okay, just for the predictions nga pala, I'm going to say Max Caster muna, then the opponent. I think I must say it's the opponent of CSJ. Sino man yun? Then, it's gonna be Bullet Club. No. I think it's Dudes with Attitude. I think Darby and Sting, Shingo and Hiromu. Then, let's talk about Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki versus Eddie Kingston, Wheeler Yuta, and Shota Umino. I think this should be a win for JS. JS and Suzuki. I don't know why, but I think they should win. Then Kingston will win at Blood and Guts. Pero may possible din na baligtad. Kasi Kingston can win here and manatalo sila sa Blood and Guts. Anyway, it's a really good match naman. Makakaasa tayo ng really good match. Let's talk about the tag titles or the titles now. So it's Thunder Rosa versus Tony Storm. They labeled this as New Japan versus New Japan versus Stardom. So it's a one-on-one AEW title. Thunder Rosa, easy win. Easy prediction for this year's Forbidden Door. I think this is Thunder Rosa. So ni Tony. Then we got a fatal triple threat match for the both Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles and the IWGP Tag Team titles. So it's FTR, the Ring of Honor tags, then the United Empire, Jeff Cobb and Great Khan, then the Roppongi Vice. Okay. I must say FTR to. It's a pretty easy, obvious thing. FTR will win this matchup. And eventually, lalabanan din nila yung box for the tags soon. And They will win all, man. Then Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy, man. To be honest, I don't need to see this match, but mukhang we need it. Okay, it's Will Ospreay, obviously. Will Ospreay. Okay, so next, it's gonna be a fatal four-way match. Pac versus Miro versus Malakai Black versus supposedly it's Tomohiro Ishii. But earlier today, before I started the pod, so Clark Connors replaced Tomohiro Ishii after they announced na hindi makapag-compete si Ishii for the pay-per-view at the Forbidden Door. So Clark Connors for the New Japan side. So pretty safe to say it's either Miro or Malakai Black. Yeah. I'm going to choose Miro or Malakai Black. Then, we got a fatal four-way. So, Jay White, Kazuchika Okada, Hangman Page, Adam Cole for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. It's a easy choice. For me, it's Jay White winning this thing. And the main event, Tony Khan. Seriously, put this shit down. Wag nyo i-main event to. Man, we don't need to see this shit. Main event? Ha? Okay, it's Jon Moxley versus Hiroshi Tanahashi for the interim AEW World Championship and will face CM Punk in a later date. So, it's pretty basic. It's Jon Moxley winning the title. Pero I don't know then if Tanahashi will win. Babalik din sila sa original plan before na Tanahashi versus CM Punk in the near future. But I must say it's Moxley naman. Moxley. It's Jon Moxley. Okay. So if you have predictions for this year's Forbidden Door, let me know in the podcast platforms. Okay? At the MPA Show Pod or Bunk. Like the Bunk PH. Okay, let's go to our picks. So the man of the week, the superstar of the week is Dax Harwood. Then the woman of the week is Jordan Grace. Then the match of the week is the Monsters Ball. Monsters Ball is a really must-watch matchup for this year's Slammiversary. If you want to watch Slammiversary, you should watch this matchup as well. So that's it for our episode this week. Follow the podcast on all of the social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, and on the YouTube channel of the MTG Show Pod. You can support the podcast by visiting our Linktree. That's linktr.ee/the MTG Show Pod for everything the MTG Show Pod related. Then you can follow and support the Bunk Collective, all of the Bunk Collective shows. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at the Bunk PH, and visit our website, thebunkph.com. And please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/thebunkph. And follow me on social media at AG Penera on Twitter and Instagram. So yun lang for our episode number 111. Expect nyo ng shorter episodes to kasi predictions light lang naman to. Okay, so stay safe, stay raso. See you next week for another big episode, Forbidden Door plus Money in the Bank predictions for next week's episode of the pod. Again, stay safe, stay raso. And see you on the next episode. Peace. We're out.